Welcome to a special episode of JFT Talks about the SHIELD Act, Senate Bill 2588, that was recently passed and signed by the governor and takes effect on July 1st. We want you to know what you need to know to protect your right to vote. So let's dive right on in. Very quickly, we are the Jackson Federation of Teachers, Paraprofessionals, and School-Related Personnel, AFT Local 4402. We are the Teachers Union. Also on the screen, you will see our address and our website. And today, we're going to be talking about the following things: registering to vote, pending status, annual statewide checks, proof of citizenship, protecting your rights, why you might be flagged anyway, and what this means for our members. If you're not a member and you're watching this, this is one of the things we do for our members to help educate our members about their rights, about their responsibilities, and about things that can help them do their job better. So, starting off with voter registration. What happens when someone registers to vote under the SHIELD Act? So, if you have not previously registered to vote and you register after July the 1st, this is what is going to happen. Step one, when you register to vote, the county registrar now has to enter your information into the statewide voter system, checking it against ID records and the federal SAVE database. That is the systematic alien verification for entitlements program. It is not the same thing as the SAVE Act that the U.S. government is trying to pass. Step two, if the system thinks a person is not a citizen, the registrar must send a notice by mail asking to prove citizenship. The applicant then has 30 calendar days to respond and prove his or her citizenship. If that person is able to provide proof of citizenship, then he or she is considered registered. And if not, that person is moved into something called pending status. So what is pending status? Pending status means that you can still vote, but you have to vote by an affidavit ballot. That is a paper ballot that is set aside until eligibility is confirmed. And you can already vote by affidavit ballot if you don't happen to have voter ID in front of you when you go to vote. But then you have to go within 5 business days of voting to confirm your identity, and then your ballot is cast. So it's not a new concept, but you may not have necessarily voted this way before. And if you're in a pending status, you will have to vote by affidavit ballot. So if you vote by affidavit on a Tuesday, that means you have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday to appear and show the proper documents. Failure to do that will invalidate your ballot. Also note that if the voter never responds, he or she remains pending until after 2 federal elections. After that, the voter is marked rejected and removed from the voter rolls. Annual statewide checks, or how you can get purged from voter rolls. Every year, the Secretary of State must compare the entire voter roll to the SAVE database and send possible non-citizen matches to county election commissioners. And then the county election commissioner must send the voter a notice by mail and place them in the pending verification category until they can prove their citizenship. I mean, does it sound familiar? It does to me. What counts as proof of citizenship? Well, a birth certificate, original illegible copy, a U.S. passport, or a copy of the ID pages of your passport, a naturalization certificate or certificate number, or any document allowed under federal immigration law. The first 2 of this list are going to apply to U.S. citizens, natural-born U.S. citizens only. meaning if you were born in the United States or you were born outside of the US to US parents, then you will need simply birth certificate or US passport. But if you were born under a different nationality and you were naturalized as a US citizen, in other words, you became a US citizen, you're going to have to provide that naturalization certificate or certificate number or some other document allowed under federal immigration law. And the problem with all of this is that it costs money if you don't happen to have these documents in your hands. So on your screen, you'll see the typical cost for these documents. Mississippi Certificate of Live Birth is $17 for the first copy and $6 for each additional copy. That is available from the Mississippi Vital Records and Health Statistics Office in Ridgeland, Mississippi. A U.S. passport will cost you $165 for a first-time passport book. That is available from the federal government, and please note that it takes about 4 weeks or more to get back. Also available is a U.S. passport card. I am not 100% certain if you can buy a passport card without buying the passport book itself. You would have to check with U.S. Customs and Immigration, USCIS, to find out about that for sure. And as a travel note, U.S. passport card will function as a valid ID for you because it shows that you are a U.S. citizen, but it is for travel purposes only good to get you across the border at Mexico, Canada, and maybe a few other places. It is not valid for international air travel. For naturalized citizens, a replacement naturalization certificate will cost you $555 from Customs and Immigration. And marriage licenses cost $17 and are available from Mississippi Vital Records and Health Statistics Office. And I'll talk about why you might need that in a moment. Again, this costs money. So, what do members need to do to protect their voting rights? Well, if you are registering to vote for the very first time after July 1st, you need to use your full legal name exactly as it appears on your ID. You need to include your driver's license number if you have one. That will help to reduce mismatches. And please make sure that your mailing address is correct, because all notices come to you by mail, which means that you've got to make sure that your information is updated in systems with the Department of Public Safety, Secretary of State's Office for Voting, and also with the United States Postal Service. Things of that nature. If you receive a citizenship verification letter, the first thing you need to do is do not ignore it. You have 30 calendar days to provide one of those accepted documents. And again, for most of us, that's going to be a birth certificate or a U.S. passport or passport card. But if you're a person who has changed your name from the birth certificate for a variety of reasons, marriage, gender reasons, etc., you're going to have a copy of a marriage license or a copy of an amended birth certificate, things of that nature, in order to prove you are who you say you are. If you do not have all of the documents, you will need to start the process immediately because the documents take time to process, with a traditional passport taking the longest. Please remember that it takes about 4 weeks to get a passport back from the federal government. And if you happen to go to the Office of Vital Records in Ridgeland off of I-220, you may be able to walk in and walk right out with it. You may have to wait. I was able to go in when I got my passport recently to the office and walk out with it, but I cannot guarantee that that's going to be the case. Please remember that the process takes time and you need to get started immediately. If you've received a citizenship verification letter, it's honestly best to have these documents ahead of time. If you are placed into pending status, it means that you can still vote, but only by affidavit ballot. and you only have 5 business days for your ballot to count by going in and proving your citizenship with those documents. And if you recall, if election day is on a Tuesday, that's only until the following Tuesday, and that's not a lot of time. If you're removed or rejected, you have to re-register to vote and provide proof of citizenship when you re-register. Why would members be flagged even if they are U.S. citizens? Well, there are a couple of things that will make that happen. Based upon the SAVE database and Department of Public Safety matching and how they work, people can get flagged if their name has changed due to marriage, divorce, adoption. Their birth certificate doesn't match the name on their ID. They were born out of state. They have hyphenated or multi-part names. Their driver's license information is outdated, or they registered to vote without a driver's license number. And just to mention a couple of things here, if your name has changed because you got married or divorced, and somehow your birth certificate name doesn't match your ID, this can affect anybody from a woman who has become married or transgendered people who have changed their name legally or anything along those lines. The Latino community who have multi-part last names, and because of the way that system works, if people here don't know it, they can put the wrong last name into a system or something of that nature, and it can create these mismatches. And for those of us who are Gen X or baby boomers, here's another thing for us to consider. When we got driver's licenses and when we registered to vote all those years ago, our driver's license number was our social security number. And the state of Mississippi doesn't do that anymore. And to be fair, I don't remember when I registered to vote if I used a driver's license number on that or not. And my driver's license number is different now. So that means even I don't know if my name is going to get flagged or not. So what does this mean for JFT members? Well, in a nutshell, people are going to be asked to prove citizenship, even if they've been voting for years. And let's be real, this is going to disproportionately affect minority groups in the state of Mississippi. It's going to affect women. It is going to affect people who have hyphenated their last names or changed their last names. That's definitely going to affect the Latino community because of that double last name system if it's not put in the system correctly. It is going to create barriers, cost barriers, and that can affect people who live on fixed incomes or who are extremely poor. And it is a mess. I don't know what else to say, but it is a mess. And what aggravates me the most about this is that you're never supposed to have to pay to vote. That's going back to Harper versus Virginia and the poll tax. But here we are. So in short, this bill adds extra steps, extra paperwork, and extra chances for voters to fall through the crack, especially working people, the poor, women, and other people who've changed their names, and for anyone without easy access to those required documents. And the best thing that I can tell you to do is to get ready because it's coming. I know I'm in pretty good shape because I have a passport and a passport card. And when I got my passport, I had to have a copy of my birth certificate. So I have the documents that are necessary in my possession to be able to go somewhere and immediately prove my citizenship. But only 21% of Mississippi's population has a passport. And how many of us have our birth certificates where we can put our hands on them? How many of us have birth certificates that have the exact same name that we have now? See how this works? It's going to disproportionately affect a lot of people in this state. And honestly, if they're going to send things by the mail, I think we all can agree that the mail system, whether by accident or on purpose, is not functioning the way it's supposed to be right now, and mail doesn't always arrive on time. We have to be prepared. And so if you are a voter, you need to make sure that you're prepared because you need to vote. Voting is it's a right of citizens, and we need to be able to vote. We have to continue to exercise that right to vote because whether this was intentional or not, it is going to disenfranchise people in this state. And that is not a good thing. We have to prepare, we have to show up, and we have to exercise our right to vote. And we cannot give up because that is what people want us to do. And that is the last thing we need to do. We must continue to exercise our rights. Very quickly, I would like to show you some credits and resources. You can see on the page here the SHIELD Act itself, Senate Bill 2588 as sent to the governor. The other sources here are from Department of Health about your birth certificate costs, passport service guide about passport fees. Again, the Department of Health about marriage record applications. And also we used Copilot by Microsoft to summarize, synthesize, and extrapolate information. And also because this slide deck was not created by me, like the design, I want to give credit to Slides Mania for that. And you can see some other information that is there. Thank you for being here. Personally, I've got a lot of opinions about this bill, but at this point, those are not important. What is important is making sure that you are aware of what is coming and that you can get started doing the things you need to do to protect yourself and preserve your right to vote. I'm Joshua A. Strong, Executive Vice President of the Jackson Federation of Teachers, wishing you a wonderful, wonderful day.